Okay, all right. Well, welcome, Peter. Peter's CTO at Diffblue, CTO and founder. Is that right?
I'm the co-founder as well, yeah.
Co-founder. Okay.
Yeah.
So welcome, Peter. And let me start off with a very broad AI question. I think a lot of people are on the fence about AI right now. A lot of people are scared. Do you think AI is the end of humanity, or is it sort of the dawn of a new age for us in a good way? Where are you on the spectrum?
Yeah, for me, AI is a technological tool. Like humanity has developed many of these tools since the beginning, like knives and steam engines and so on. Yeah. So yeah, the use of these tools will necessarily lead to problems. Yeah, as they can be misused, but they will also bring about many good things.
Got it. So if you're thinking of it as just a technological tool, I would tend to agree with you. Is it on the scale of sort of knives and guns, or is it on the nuclear bomb scale?
I would rather say it's on the nuclear energy scale. Yeah, it's of
Okay.
course
So
harnessing nuclear energy is good, but of course you can also misuse it, or it can lead to fatal catastrophes. Yeah.
got it. Okay. So it's a new tool, but it's still a pretty big deal. What are you feeling right now? What's the emotion that you get when you dealing with AI? Is it excitement? Is it fear? Is it both? What are you feeling?
It's both. Yeah, I said every tool can be used for good as well as for bad things. Yeah.
So when did you actually get into, at Diffblue, you guys are, you're dealing directly with code and you're using AI to help people code or maintain code. When did you actually get started? What sort of, give me the origin story of Diffblue.
So we started almost 8 years ago, and our so we started from a background in software verification. With the goal is to make sure that software does it is supposed to do, and testing is obviously one method for doing that. Um, so what we wanted to do is to use technology to make testing much easier, in particular for developers that spend a lot of time writing tests. And this is something that can be automated by putting some intelligence in tools. This is how we started out, and our tagline of the company was pretty soon AI for code, because this is what we provide as a company.
So can you remember the first time? I think, most people over the last year really got shocked into having to learn about AI through ChatGTP. You've been in this a lot longer than that. When is the first moment when AI really surprised you? When you got shocked but with the interaction you had with an AI system?
Uh, so I think what the public perceived the advent of the AI pretty much as a revolution, but in reality, the development has been much more incremental over many decades. What was really revolutionary, in my opinion, was how they the new interface that OpenAI came up with was making it easier to everyone to interact with it, and this has dramatically increased the, vis- the visibility of the state of the art where we actually are in AI research. And
Right.
I would say that the power of the user interface has this was really revolutionary.
Got it. So, and I think then maybe in your particular field, did you get a similar feeling from Copilot or from GitHub's Copilot, or not really?
Um, Much less, but it yeah, of course you as a developer you have certain expectations, yeah, and um, you see it can sometimes do great things, but sometimes it just spits out garbage and you just discard it and move on. Yeah. So
Right, right.
it's a mixed bag. Sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah. So I think the validation, right, is a big problem, right? Or the hallucination or the The quality of the data is a big problem. Maybe not so much for the general public. It doesn't seem, when I talk to people about ChatGPT, my personal interaction with it is, if you want something general, it seems to be okay. But as soon as you dig into the details, you're bound to find something wrong pretty much everywhere. So in your particular case scenario, that's a big issue, right? How do you, how do you guys deal with that challenge?
Yeah, so our system has a functionality to actually make sure that we always produce the correct result. So it's software is a bit special because we have the software artifacts that we can execute. So we have actual access to the ground truth, and we can make sure that the outputs that our AI produces are actually correct, which is very different from many other applications where everything is fluffy. You can't really tell what is right or wrong that easily. But this software is much easier. You can execute and you actually see what is going on. You see what the behavior is. And this is what we exploit in our system to make sure that we always give the correct results.
Could you take us through, for someone that doesn't know much about unit testing or Diffblue in general, can you take us through a little bit of what your system does for users?
Yes, yeah. So we provide software developers with a tool that automatically writes unit tests. And we do this on two levels. First of all, it's integrated in the CI system of a project. So it runs autonomously on the code base and provides the unit tests. So this has many advantages. First of all, it removes the load from developers of actually doing anything. Secondly, for the managers, it's great that to achieve or enforce a certain standard of unit testing across many code bases that their teams might be involved with, and they might be at different levels. And so they can use our tool to get a certain amount of unit test coverage across their entire estate. And this is, of course, a big advantage, in particular when they have projects that are at very different maturity stages, where legacy projects that have no testing at all, and other projects where the developers maybe have a certain culture of not writing tests or being too lazy and so on. So this is really a tool that enables managers to get grips on their code base and estates. On the other hand, we have also a plugin that developers can use from their IDE and to write tests for the code they're currently working on.
Got it. Okay, so I think, correct me if I'm wrong. My experience is that most developers have a love-hate relationship with tests, right? It's not a love-hate relationship that a person has with tests in general. It's some developers really love it and some developers really hate it. Would I be correct in your experience in qualifying that way?
Yeah, certainly. Yes.
Yeah. So, I think then in your case, you're covering the, code bases that are with a group of developer who's not handling unit testing very well, and that covers that automatically. Can you share some insight into sort of how that could even work? Like what's the secret sauce within AI that would enable that to be possible?
So the key ingredient is that it needs to work autonomously. So you need to write. It's not like when you use Copilot that you get some suggestion and then it doesn't quite work. You have to fix it up. You have to make it compile and so on. So to really produce code autonomously, it must work out of the box without any human intervention. And the system that we the secret sauce behind that is that we we use reinforcement learning. So we don't purely rely on some pre-trained models to produce something, but we actually learn as we proceed what the correct code will be. So we use that to optimize simultaneously to achieve the right code coverage, and also so that the code is idiomatic and looks like a human would write them, and at the same time make the code correct. So we do these things all at once, and the result is that we can produce code that is actually compiles and runs and behaves as expected.
So developers can then just submit their code, and then your system is part of the DevOps pipeline, which automatically looks at that code, creates the unit tests, and runs them,
Yes.
and just included as part of the build process.
Exactly. Yes.
Got it. And so how does that create 100% coverage? Like, how do you sort of assess coverage at that point?
No, this doesn't create 100% coverage. It's always best effort. It often depends on how the code base is actually written. So it's quite easy to write code that is not really testable, not by a human and not let alone by a machine. Yeah. So there is you won't get 100% coverage. It depends a bit on how well your code is written, so that you get good coverage. But what we see at our customers, that on really bad projects we get 30% coverage. On really good written projects we get easily 80% and so on, without any human intervention.
Wow. Okay. So that's interesting. So how would you define well written versus poorly written? What's the standard that developers need to get up to in order to enable for automatic, sort of optimum coverage?
Yeah, so testability is usually a question of good architectural practices. Yeah, so the usual story of high cohesion, low coupling. If your code is written that well, then it's also easy to test. And the same is true for a machine. If it has the right tests for code that is a plate of spaghetti, then this is really hard or almost impossible.
Got it. Okay, so it's not really about the syntax or the commenting or the way that the code is written. It's more about the architecture and the fundamental understanding from a computer science perspective.
Exactly. Yes.
Got it. Okay. Well, it's good. If it, I think if it pushes people towards applying or thinking more about the architecture from the beginning, and you get all of those tests for free, that's a positive outcome, I would say.
Exactly. And the approaches like TDD, they aim at the same. Yeah, you're using TDD because it enables you to produce better code that is better architectured, that has less coupling and so on.
Yeah, yeah. Except TDD used to be sort of. I think it works really well for a certain type of developer, and somehow doesn't work well for I think the personality of developers for which TDD seems to have stuck, right? And I don't know if it's a personality issue or if it's a training and diligence issue. Actually, what do you think about that? What are the main challenges towards what were the main challenges, I guess, before you've made it irrelevant now with automated sort of coverage? What are the main challenges towards building a great TDD team? Is it internal training or is it more than that?
It depends pretty much on the culture and how you approach a project. So to use TDD, you really need to know all the requirements up front. which is a bit at odds with certain agile practices where you rather have a feedback process to incrementally discover the requirements and build your process more incrementally. So this is certainly so TDD has certain problems in this respect, but it's what we generally recommend is that you write the tests for the basic requirements that you know upfront using a TDD approach, and this is a very good practice because these tests that guide you during the implementation. And then there are many corner cases that you still need to write tests for, and for these cases, automated test writing solution is perfectly suited.
Got it. Are you, is there a hope? Where do you think this technology is going as far as, test automation? Are you planning on going towards integration testing or sort of more complex test cases? Or is there, what else is a possible option for this technology?
Yeah. So we're focusing on unit testing because this is where most people are lacking and there's most to be gained from. Other types of tests is certainly an option. People are usually quite good at writing end-to-end tests because this is what they're most familiar with. Although there is a lot to be automated there, there's quite some potential. For us as Diffblue, the current strategy is to stay at unit testing because this is what there is still a lot to be done in helping companies to adapt unit testing, which is necessary also to benefit from continuous integration. Because if you have no unit test to run, then your continuous integration is not very useful because you don't get fast feedback.
Yeah, got it. So what are there specific industries where you found that, that you are getting better, results or more interest from? I certainly know, you guys are focusing on Java, so I always get finance. Those guys need a lot of help in maintaining older code bases. Any other industries other than finance which are sort of responding well to your product?
Yeah, it's finance is certainly one of our sweet spots. There is certain interest from telco and pharma and other companies that have quite substantial Java code bases.
Yeah. Got it. What what was the strategy? Was it a business strategy or a technical strategy to start with Java?
It was a business strategy because Java is by far the largest language for backend systems, and the business decision was to focus on backend systems. So we said, okay, backend system is Java, so let's start with that.
Got it. But there's no sort of inherent difference between any language that you could think of that wouldn't make it applicable.
There's certainly differences in the languages from a low-level technical perspective. Yeah.
But as far as sort of applying your technology to different languages, it's just a matter of sort of brute force, sort of one by one, adding the technology. Or are there any particular sort of language?
Yeah, in principle, yes. There are no fundamental challenges. It's essentially just engineering work.
Got it. Great. So I think a lot of people are really sort of concerned with AI, right? In the field of robotics, with the use of data, the IP, in art, taking jobs, right? There's all sorts of controversial topics surrounding the use of AI. Is there one that's particular to your field, testing wise? Is there sort of a controversial topic there that needs to be addressed?
There's certainly the controversial topic around copyright of the training data that still causes quite some anxiety, I would say. So we at Diffblue, we don't have this problem because we all our training data is very carefully curated. But other companies that use models where the training data is less curated have that problem to argue that there are no IP implications if you use this tool and generate code with it and so on. So customers are very interested in these questions and want to know that they're on the safe side.
So I guess the main question that you're hinting at is customers asking whether you're going to use their code base to train and then apply it on other clients' code bases. Is that the right assumption?
This is one way. That is, of course, for many customers a no-go because they don't want any of their data to leave the premises. But also the other way around. Yeah, if you train on some GPL code, and then that gets infiltrated in your code base, then of course this is undesirable.
So how do you guys resolve that? Do you start from scratch on each customer's model is trained from their code base to begin with, or does it start with a base model that you're?
So we start with a base model that is fully under our control, and then we use reinforcement learning on the customer code to learn from the customer code.
So what is that onboarding procedure then? Is that sort of a how long does it take to learn? I guess it would depend on the size of your code base, but in your experience and the case studies that you have with customers, what's sort of the onboarding time for a product like yours into a new customer code base?
It's usually a matter of a few weeks, I would say. Depends, of course, on the number of projects that they want to onboard. But usually for full integration into CI and training of the developers can usually be done in 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay, so that's
and this is mostly DevOps setup time and training. There is not the compute itself is not that doesn't take 3 weeks.
Considering what you get out of it versus having to put on a QA team, to do that, or training your devs to do that, or that's a no-brainer in my mind. What's the biggest other than the data, and IP, pushback? What's some of the sort of questions that most people have regarding, how it works or what the limitations are?
Of course, the level of coverage is always a question. But most customers understand the enormous benefit that they get from the tool. So any increase by 20-30% is massive, because it will take the developers years or decades to do this work manually. So this is relatively easy to understand that you won't get 100% coverage, but even if you just get a few percent, you have saved a lot of money and time. The questions around data security, IP protection is very important. So no code should leave the premises, and all the code that is generated by the tool needs to be owned by the company, obviously, by the customer. So these are important.
Because of the industries that you're working with, finance, healthcare, insurance, all of these highly regulated guys, those are the questions that they usually have. So your solution is on-prem. You guys are, installing in their cloud systems or on their, hardware?
Yes. So our solution is on-prem. So you can install it usually it is installed in the CI system, so it's extremely lightweight because we use a small model and reinforcement learning, so it runs within a CI worker. Doesn't need a lot of compute. Doesn't call out to some cloud systems. It's quite easy to deploy.
Got it. And any plans for, I mean, I can totally see this. I definitely understand why it would make sense for a large enterprise, but I also, as a developer myself, any hope of getting a single user, license in a SaaS type system for developers who want to use it on their own code, or is that in the plans for you guys?
Yeah, so we have a community edition, which provides only the plugin that you can use in your IDE right now. So you can just download it now if you want. And that one runs locally on your laptop. So it's lightweight enough to just run on your laptop. We currently don't have a individual license. We are working on that because we have lots of users of the community edition who are not part of large enterprises who can afford an enterprise license, but still want to use it on for their projects on a continuous basis without being restricted by the restrictions of the community edition. Yeah. So we are working on that. Yeah.
Right. And so what's your, it seems to me like there are, I don't know, in the US, maybe, 100,000 companies that could really use this software right now. Like what's your, it seems like there's probably way too many companies out there that could just plug this in right away. And would get an immediate benefit, right? Like what's, what strategy are you guys using to get at these people? Are you, focusing really right now on a certain, finance, healthcare, certain industries, or, is it really open for anybody who wants to use it to come and use?
So the community edition is open for anybody to use. And this is one of our main entry points for new customers. Usually some developers download the tool, try it out in the IDE, and then approach the managers to buy a license. This is one of the ways, and which works quite successfully. Of course, we have also people who approach us directly from the higher manager levels and say, we're interested in the solution, we want to do a proof of concept, and so on. And then we start with a team, and then they expand to more teams within these accounts. This is our usual approach. But we are not really restricting it to particular verticals. It's more that there are certain problems that people want to solve, like they want to re-architect code bases and they realize they don't have enough tests, and then they're looking for these kind of solutions. And these are the kind of customers we're looking for.
Got it. Okay. So shout out. So, I think anybody who's experienced, anybody who's led a tech team and, has experience trying to get tests out of their developers, I think it's a good idea that they head over your page and try it out. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. It's great to learn. I think you've got sort of an application and a strategy, the strategy of sort of making it hands off, right? I think that's a unique thing that we've seen about Diffblue. Out of all the AI companies that are working right now, most are sort of still at the stage where they require human input and checking, right? And I think the application of just being able to have an AI system that does things for you automatically is a pure benefit, right? It's something that's very different from many AI systems that are out there. So I think it's super interesting. And so any upcoming announcements, or what are you looking for in 2024? Anything that people should know about Diffblue? What are you guys sort of working on that's next level?
So we're looking into integrating with more systems, for example, CI providers. like you know, CI systems that are like running on GitHub Actions or GitLab or Jenkins. They're very popular. We want to make it easy to deploy our solution inside the systems. We're also looking into more IDEs and these kind of things. And obviously, we're always trying to provide more tests, better tests to our users. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. All right. Well, this is super exciting, and I look forward to hearing more from you guys in 2024 and sort of using internally. I think at Spryte we're going to be delving into this next week and try to see how we take advantage of that. So really appreciate your time, Peter, and yeah, look forward to seeing what happens with Diffblue next year.